When the bell tolls in Farron Keep, it does not summon heroes. It awakens a memory. The Abyss Watchers rise not as defenders of the world, but as remnants of a vow made long ago. A vow so absolute that it erased the men who swore it. They are knights who burn eternally, fighting a war that no longer exists, bound together by blood, fire, and a name borrowed from legend. This is not the story of a boss fight. This is the story of what happens when duty replaces identity, and loyalty becomes self-destruction. To understand the Abyss Watchers, we must begin with Artorias the Abysswalker. Artorias was not merely a knight. He was a symbol. A warrior who dared step into the abyss itself and resist corruption, armed only with his greatsword, shield, and unyielding will. But the legend is incomplete. Artorias did not truly conquer the abyss. He was consumed by it. His story survived not because he succeeded, but because others believed he had. And belief in Dark Souls is powerful enough to reshape history. The Abyss Watchers were born from this belief, not from Artorias' truth, but from his image. Inspired by Artorias' supposed triumph, the Undead Legion of Farron was created to become something unprecedented. Not a knightly order, not an army, but a living weapon against the abyss. They drank the wolf's blood, a ritual binding them together, mind, body, and soul, into a single purpose. They did not fight for kings. They did not fight for gods. They fought for containment. Wherever the abyss appeared, the Watchers followed, eradicating corruption at any cost, even if that cost was themselves. The wolf's blood was meant to grant resistance to the abyss, but it did something else. It erased individuality. The Abyss Watchers did not think as men. They thought as a legion. One oath, one goal, one identity. At first, this made them unstoppable. But over time, unity became dependence, and dependence became paranoia. Farron Keep is not a fortress. It is a scar. The land itself is poisoned, stagnant, and hostile, a reflection of the war waged there endlessly. This was never meant to be a home. It was meant to be a staging ground. The Watchers did not build a future. They built a place to die. And when the abyss receded, Farron Keep remained, a war zone with no enemy left to fight. Here lies the core tragedy. The abyss is not constant. It ebbs and flows. But the Abyss Watchers were bound to eternal vigilance. With no external corruption to hunt, they began to sense it within each other. Suspicion replaced clarity. Brotherhood turned into scrutiny. Every Watcher became a potential threat. And so the war turned inward. By the time the player arrives, the Abyss Watchers are no longer guarding the world. They are fighting themselves. Some Watchers burn with the red glow of corruption. Others rise to destroy them. But there is no difference anymore. They rise, they kill, they fall, they rise again. Not because they choose to, but because they no longer know how to stop. At the heart of Farron Keep lies the Old Wolf of Farron, possibly a descendant of Artorias' companion, possibly a symbol, possibly something older. The wolf does not command. It does not judge. It watches. And in doing so, it mirrors the Legion itself. Guardians who no longer intervene meaningfully, bound to observation instead of action. Eventually, the Abyss Watchers are named Lords of Cinder, not because they sought the flame, but because they were already burning. Their souls, consumed by endless conflict, were offered to the first flame not out of hope, but exhaustion. And even then, they resisted. They did not want to rise again. But duty does not allow rest. The fight against the Abyss Watchers is not a duel. It is a ritual reenactment. They fight as they always have, some against you, some against each other. Even in death, they cannot unify. Only when the final Watcher stands alone does the truth become clear. There was never a victory condition, only continuation. Artorias failed alone. The Abyss Watchers failed together. And yet, in their failure, they surpassed him. They did not resist the Abyss through strength. They resisted it through sacrifice. They became monsters to ensure worse monsters would never rise. The Abyss Watchers are the embodiment of Dark Souls 3's central theme: a world trapped by its own solutions. They represent what happens when a temporary answer becomes permanent, when duty outlives context, when vigilance becomes obsession, when identity dissolves into function. The Abyss Watchers did not fall because they were weak. They fell because they were too faithful. They believed the war would never end, and so they ensured it wouldn't. In the end, they do not ask to be remembered as heroes. They ask only to keep fighting. And in a dying world, that may be the cruelest fate of all.